An insider has revealed a bombshell Rangers report as the Rangers, as we know them, are done. We know Chris Kreider is being traded to the Anaheim Ducks. And not only that, this insider has revealed that the core of this team is finished as we know it, with multiple players on their way out of New York as well. And this has major implications on the roster and Chris Drury's plans for this roster this offseason. We're going to break it all down in this episode because there is a lot to get to. There's a lot of moving parts. But before we do that, a quick reminder to hit that subscribe button. About 74% of you who watch these videos are not subscribed to the channel. So if you want to stay up to date with everything that's happening with your New York Rangers, go down below, hit that free subscribe button, and this is the place to be for all your daily New York Rangers content. But Bret, we have a brand new report from multiple insiders, but most notably right now, Larry Brooks, and it's a bombshell. It's a big one. There's a lot of moving pieces here, and we're going to try and break it all down in this episode. But the first thing is that they are, and this is a direct quote from Larry Brooks, that they are trying to break up the New York Rangers. And by they, I think he means Chris Drury. And that there is no doubt that that is the intention. I was told that Drury is committed to changing the chemistry in the room. He wants to make multiple moves to change the mix. And how is he going to do that? If it's only Chris Kreider, I mean, yes, we knew that Chris Kreider would probably be traded this offseason. We had an idea that that was probably the direction they were going to free up that cap space. But this is really interesting. And he followed it up by saying Mika probably will be here. I'm not talking for Mika at all, but I think he would be more open to waiving his no movement clause if Kreider is gone and they are best friends. And that's kind of what people were talking about since this report came out, that both of them are best friends. And if Kreider is traded, Mika's kind of looking at the team like, there's nothing really left here for me. Maybe I would waive my no movement clause and go to another team. So Bret, how do you feel about these two reports? Because this changes everything. If you can trade Mika Zibanejad as well, and I'm not saying you should necessarily, we can kind of get into the specifics of that, but you know, if you do that, this frees up a ton more salary cap space and you can go out and completely change this team this offseason.
Well, Darius, as you alluded to, there's been so much breaking news surrounding the New York Rangers. This whole entire week, it's been berserk. We've been in constant communication, just trying to pump these videos out. But it seems like every time we put a video out, there's a new report. And we had these new reports today. And Larry Brooks' article with the New York Post was just awesome. And just Brooks bombshells, I'm going to call them. Larry Brooks bombshells, because there's so much packed into that article, and we're going to break it all down right now. And you mentioned Mika Zibanejad. I mean, this Rangers team, this Rangers core, as we've known them, as we've known it, is completely finished. I mean, we're talking about Chris Kreider here. This is the longest tenured Ranger. He's been here for 13 seasons. Now we're talking about Mika Zibanejad. This guy is an assistant captain as well. He's been here for the last 9 seasons. I mean, these are veterans, not only in the NHL, but Ranger veterans. And I'm going to get a little nerdy here for a second and take us back to last season, the off season of last year, where basically this all began. This is where Chris Drury started peeling away at this roster. You talk about Jacob Trouba, and last postseason was the beginning of the end for Jacob Trouba, because the Rangers won the President's Trophy, made it to the Eastern Conference Finals. They were up 2-1 against the Florida Panthers. And the Rangers fans firmly believe that if Jacob Trouba would have done his job, done what he was supposed to do, the Rangers may not have won that series, but certainly could have forced the Game 7, been much more competitive in that series. But Jacob Trouba was just a complete no-show throughout the entire postseason. So that was the beginning of the end over there. And that offseason was the beginning of the end, because Chris Drury made it known, league-wide memo, that he wanted to trade the captain, and that really sent shockwaves throughout the entire locker room. Shortly after that, he went on to release Barclay Goodrow, who is beloved in the Rangers locker room. This is another assistant captain, folks, a Stanley Cup champion, well respected. And the Rangers went into last year with a captain that knew he was basically gone, that management wanted him gone. They tried trading him to the Detroit Red Wings, but they were on his no trade clause, so that never materialized. But then they traded him again to the Ducks, and he once again was thinking about, denying that trade. But Chris Drury essentially held a gun to his head and said, look, we're going to put you on waivers if you don't accept this trade, and then any team could sign you. Maybe a worse situation than Anaheim. So it was the beginning of the end for the Rangers core last season, and now we're really seeing it unfold. Darius, Kreider's gone, and
Yeah.
now if Mika Zibanejad is gone, really the only pillar that's left is Artemi Panarin, and who knows after this season? I mean, he could be gone next year as well. So Darius, there is a lot going on. We're going to discuss who could be replacing those pillars later on in the video, but wow, just wow.
Yeah, there is so much going on. And like you said, I mean, a lot of people talked last season. Was it ethical the way that he went about Chris Drury? This is getting rid of Jacob Trouba, getting rid of Barclay Goodrow. But the fact of the matter is, I think Chris Drury is trying to mimic the Vegas Golden Knights and how cutthroat they are. And the fact that if you are that way, you can win championships. But, obviously you still want to maintain some relationships. But I think he's trying to completely change the way that this team thinks, the way that they go about their business. I feel like it's, at least in terms of on ice, it is JT Miller's team now. That mindset that you come in, I want to win the Stanley Cup, I want to be the best. I feel like that's what he's trying to build around now. And, you kind of have to get rid of the guys who've been here before to instill a new culture. And you have a new coach coming in too. So this does make a lot of sense. Like Mika Zibanejad, love the guy. I have his jersey. Chris Kreider, longest tenured Ranger, love the guy. But there has to be a change, I think, if they want to make things happen here. And one thing that is holding up this trade is the fact that Chris Kreider does have Anaheim on his no trade list. Obviously, it sounds like he's going to waive. By all accounts, all reports from Elliot Friedman and multiple others, he's going to waive his no trade clause and he will be an Anaheim Duck. So that's something to keep an eye on over the next couple of days. And Frank Seravalli also reporting that there are multiple big changes on the way. I wanted to get into this, and we will touch on right before we end the video, the replacements, certain replacements, and what Chris Drury can do with this roster. But another bombshell report from Larry Brooks is K'Andre Miller, and we're going to have another video about this as well, because I think Chris Drury, it's confirmed now through this that he is completely revamping the defense, especially the left side there. And Larry Brooks goes on to say, K'Andre Miller will be traded before July 1st, before he can get to offer sheet territory. And if he gets to July 1st and gets an offer sheet, the Rangers will take the compensation over the player. So K'Andre Miller, by all accounts, is finished as a New York Ranger. So Brett, how do you feel about that as well? It sounds like they're going to completely revamp the left side. They're getting rid of Chris Kreider, Mika Zibanejad. This is going to be a different team next season.
Is another pillar of this team. I know K'Andre Miller is young, 25 years old, and we're talking about veterans here. We're talking about Chris Kreider, Mika Zibanejad, Jacob Trouba, or twisted. While he may be 25 years old, the guy's been here half a decade. We may have seen the best of K'Andre Miller. Last 3 seasons, he has gotten worse and worse and worse. And like I said, Darius, I'm going to keep this as brief as possible because we still have more to get to in this video. But the guy was a complete traffic cone this past season. I know Rangers fans out there, some want to bring him back. But, the feeling that I get, the vast majority of Rangers fans are ready to move on and bring in a fresh player on that defense. K'Andre Miller is as good as gone, and I have no concerns that the Rangers will be able to replace him come this offseason.
Absolutely. And you know what? If you free up a lot of cap space, which they will, and I'll show you here, Mika Zibanejad, $8.5 million, and even Chris Kreider, which we know will be, he will be traded at $6.5 million. That frees up a ton of cap space that then you can use to then acquire a player like, I'll bring it up, maybe Bowen Byram, right? Maybe Bowen Byram, you fill in the left side. We were kind of talking about this on our stream as well, that, maybe you bring him in to play second pairing minutes. Maybe you find somebody, or Braden Schneider, you move him up the lineup to the left side. You brought that up in a previous video as well and on the live stream. So maybe you go out and get Bowen Byram. He's not going to cost you too much, right? You can eat into the salary cap a little bit and still have a lot of flexibility. And I think it's going to be very interesting. But the last thing I wanted to touch on, and feel free to touch on Bowen Byram as well and your thoughts on that, but Jason Robertson, where there's smoke, there's fire. I feel like this team and Chris Drury is definitely in on Jason Robertson, and it matches up perfectly. If you free up cap space from not only Chris Kreider, but Mika Zibanejad as well, you can go out and get Jason Robertson for the assets you're getting in return. You can package everything together, maybe your first round pick this year, because Dallas can't take on any more salary. You're going to be trading futures and draft picks anyway. So maybe you attach those all in a package, you trade them over to Jason Robertson. He only makes almost $8 million this year. You can fit that in the cap space that you have now. And like you mentioned, Panarin is a free agent next year. You free up over $11 million. You can pay Robertson what he's worth as well. And that completely, changes the outlook of the team. So how do you feel about, some potential players coming in?
Well, I'm going to talk about Jason Robertson right now, and I'm not going to get to another player I'm going to tease this player. The Rangers have the potential to bring in another young star who is also unhappy in his current situation. We'll save that for another video, but this Rangers team as we know it, you summed it up so perfectly, Darius. This core, this team as we know it is finished. I mean, this team reached their peak, quite frankly. They've had a lot of success. I mentioned it in the live stream, 5 conference finals, a Stanley Cup appearance with Chris Kreider as a Ranger. So this core has had a lot of success together. Not the ultimate success, but they reached their peak. They won the President's Trophy last year. They were third in the NHL on the power play. All that being said, Alexis Lafreniere with a breakout season. All that being said, it still wasn't nearly enough to get through the Florida Panthers. And Darius, as you know, the Eastern Conference, and quite frankly, the entire NHL runs through the Florida Panthers. So the Rangers at their peak simply weren't good enough to get the job done. And now it's time to move on. Forward thinking moves. Jason Robertson is the guy. Jason Robertson is a game breaker. He is Chris Kreider on steroids, folks. This guy is 26 years old, a big frame. He is so skilled. He's a pure scorer. Darius, you brought it up in the video I was watching a few days ago. Multiple 40-point seasons, guys. This is who we're talking about. The perfect candidate to replace Chris Kreider. And like I said, just 26 years old. And Darius, I'm really going to tease this guy because I think it's best we save this for another video because this is going to have Rangers fans completely fired up. Not only Jason Robertson, but the prospects of another young star coming to Broadway from a situation that he's currently not happy in. And this team can not only win this upcoming season, but in the future for years to come. I can't wait to watch this new version of Rangers hockey. Chris Drury, please don't mess this up. Just play your cards right. Please.
I think he has a perfect opportunity this offseason to completely retool this team, continue to make them competitive, and they probably will be competitive next season. I think that they will be, despite going for a Jason Robertson. Let's say I think they'll actually be back on track. But if you go out and get game-breaking talent like Jason Robertson, maybe you get another guy like you're alluding to. We're gonna have another video on that, but you can completely change the face of this team by trading Chris Kreider, who we know is out the door to the Anaheim Ducks, and if Mika Zibanejad is then open to a trade because that's happening, this really changes things. You have a ton of salary cap space to work with, and you can trade some assets to then go out, get some game-breaking talent, make this team competitive immediately, in the immediate future, because you have the goaltending to do it, and I would argue that, you need one more piece on defense, and the defense is not bad. So it's going to be interesting to see what Chris Drury does, because there's a lot of moving pieces. Things are changing in New York. The Rangers will be a different looking team next season, but we'll keep you covered here on the channel for everything as it progresses, because Chris Kreider, we know that he's out the door. The trade hasn't gone through yet, so that's going to be interesting to keep an eye on. But let us know in the comments how you feel about everything going on. Mika Zibanejad, Chris Kreider, all these different reports. Let us know down below, and if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with everything New York Rangers.